For the first time since 1988, for the third time ever, the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. What an unbelievable season. They were 75-1 to go to the Super Bowl to start the year. Hope you had that one. They were 2-14 2 years ago. They drafted some kid named Burrow. Then they drafted some kid named Chase. They stuck with Zach Taylor, and now plane reservations to LA because they're representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. Here we are, CBS Sports HQ, sponsored by Microsoft Surface with Jonathan Jones. I'm Eric Casilius. Man, this was a pretty shocking result. Not only at the start of the day, but when they were down 18 during the day. How shocked are you? And what is the most surprising aspect of what we just saw?
I'm pretty shocked, and I'm shocked because the Kansas City Chiefs, especially after the first half and what they were able to do and put up 21 points, and they probably should have put up just a little bit more there at the end of the first half. But wow, you have a Kansas City Chiefs team playing at home knowing what the AFC title game is all about, right? It was their fourth straight trip there. You have a head coach in Zach Taylor who, before this season, didn't have anything close to a winning record. You had a second-year quarterback in Joe Burrow. You had a team that didn't know what the moment would be, and being down 21-3 heading into halftime, a touch of momentum there after they were able to stop Tyreek Hill at the 1-yard line. But I did not at all feel coming out of halftime that this was a game that, okay, no question about it, the Bengals are going to be able to come back slowly but surely. And then with about 6 minutes left, it's, oh, the Bengals have the lead in this game. A truly, truly incredible performance by Joe Burrow and that bunch.
The most surprising thing to me is the fact that Patrick Mahomes was so awesome and dominant in the first half and was so un-Patrick Mahomes like in the second half. I can't ever remember him playing a worse half than he did in the second half in overtime. And it wasn't like, well, it was a really good defensive performance. It just wasn't his day. It was like they flicked a switch at halftime. Why did we see such a turn from the first half when the Chiefs just did whatever they wanted on offense, up 21-3, and almost had more, got stopped on the 1 foot line, or the 1 yard line essentially, right before halftime, to the second half where they had 3 total points and looked completely inept down the stretch, including into overtime?
Pass rush. We saw a much better pass rush from the Cincinnati Bengals. When you look at Sam Hubbard, was able to have 3 quarterback hits and he got 2 sacks. When you look at what Trey Hendrickson was able to do, 1.5 sacks, 5 quarterback hits there. In the second half, they were able to get to Patrick Mahomes. Now, we all know Patrick Mahomes likes to hold on to the football, make things happen. Guys are ultimately going to get open downfield, Mecole Hardman or Tyreek Hill. They were playing fantastic coverage there on the back end. Obviously, there was that amazing game-saving, game-helping play with Von Bell and Jesse Bates. But those corners and those safeties were playing fantastic coverage downfield. That allowed the pass rush to finally get to Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that this falls on the offensive line necessarily. It wasn't that they were blitzing Mahomes. He was only blitzed about 9% of his dropbacks, which is very much in line with how much he's been blitzed this entire season. They didn't do anything special. They just played great defense, great team, complementary defense. You hear it all the time from coaches. Play great sticky coverage on the back end. Let our pass rush get there. That's what happened.
All right, so who would you make the MVP for Cincinnati? You can pick a player or a unit. Is it Burrow? Is it Mixon, who was a baller for 4 quarters today? Was it their D-line? Was it their secondary, which seemed to play about as well as I thought they could have? You know, whatever their 100% output is, they're pretty much right there. You couldn't ask for more. Who was the MVP for Cincinnati today?
It was Burrow, and his stat line doesn't say, oh, wow, you know, it wasn't the 400 passing yards like he had in that Week 17 matchup, right? But he was only sacked 1 time. You and I are watching that game together. How often was the Chiefs' pass rush around him, and he was getting out of it? Those incredible third down escapes that he had throughout the game, and then, of course, making the throws when he needed to. It's not enough that Jesse Bates makes the play and Von Bell gets the interception. They're still in their own territory once they take over. You got to get across midfield, and obviously Joe Mixon had plenty to do with that as well, but I think it has to be Joe Burrow in this one. Joe Cool, the guy who is always, always clutch and came up clutch. Again, you didn't really think that they were going to come back. They did because of how cool Joe Burrow was.
All right, what does this do for Patrick Mahomes' legacy? He's an all-time great going in. He's an all-time great now. But one of the things when you talk about the all-time greats, they were never the reason their team lost, right? You don't have to win every time. I saw LeBron James lose finals. To me, for example, the one where you can sort of stain him was Dallas. Because he didn't play well.
That's right.
Not Golden State where they got beat and he was the best player on the floor, but just didn't have enough around him. This was Mahomes. Like, this was his LeBron James Dallas, no? I mean, he was bad in the second half. He had a bad interception. He had a fumble. He had a throw in overtime, which should have been picked off. The one that actually was picked off was tipped. I don't even put that much on him. But ultimately, 3 points in the second half and in overtime. His team loses at home. What does this do for him?
You mentioned that fumble. I mean, my goodness, the Cincinnati Bengals almost won and went to the Super Bowl off that fumble. If they were able to jump on it, of course, Joe Tinney made a fantastic play, and they were able to kick that field goal in order to get to overtime. What does it do for Patrick Mahomes' legacy? He's still the greatest young quarterback in NFL history. He still has the NFL MVP. He still has a Super Bowl ring and a Super Bowl MVP all to his name. He's still been able to be in the AFC title game in 4 consecutive years in his first 4 years of playing football. That's incredible. He could retire right now, and I think he's in the Hall of Fame. Maybe not in 5 years, but in 6 or 7. He's in there. This hurts, and this is a thought that I've had today where I thought that this was Patrick Mahomes' best chance. He was facing an underdog team, right? They were 7-point dogs. He was facing a quarterback who had never been there before, a head coach who had never been there before. You win this game at home. Look on the other side. There's no Rodgers. There's no Brady coming out of the NFC. The thing was sort of open for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and unfortunately for him, he put together, in my opinion, one of his worst halves of football. You have to be able to score more than 3 points. And he put the ball on the deck there that almost lost them the game. And then, of course, it was a fantastic play by Jesse Bates in order for Von Bell to get that interception. But Patrick Mahomes was playing less than for the final 30-plus minutes of the game.
Yeah, see, I don't knock Mahomes for last year's Super Bowl. The guy ran for his life, was throwing horizontal and knocking Tyreek Hill off the face mask 40 yards downfield. There was nothing much he could do. No quarterback was going to win that game with that offensive line. Today is different. I'm with you. Today is sort of his, this is one you should have had.
Yep. And
probably you're the reason why you don't have it. Can't blame anybody else on this one. And you see the tail two ups. Look at that first half. I mean, that was a great performance. Great performance. And they almost had a 4th touchdown. Again, they got stopped. They were on the 1-yard line going in with no time left on the half, and Tyreek Hill got tackled on a completion, so that's where you ended up. And in the second half, yikes. It was as bad as that 12-point. He earned it, and it could have even been worse in some spots. Patrick Mahomes, I'm still not sure what I just saw. I couldn't be more surprised. All right, let's bring in Ryan Wilson, CBS Sports NFL draft expert, CBS Sports NFL expert. Same thing to you, Ryan. What is the most shocking thing about the fact that we are now saying the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl?
Well, the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. I mean, that in and of itself is hard to wrap your brain around. Our colleague John Breach, longtime Cincinnati Bengals fan, his dad kicked for the Bengals in the Super Bowl the last time they were there. Great Cincinnati Bengals player, and no one is more excited than him, and he didn't think this was going to happen, even as they were kneeling Joe Burrow at the very end there to allow Evan McPherson to line up for what is an Evan McPherson chip shot from 31 yards. So it's an amazing story, but let's be honest, and JJ just touched on it, no one saw this coming. Even as recently as 2.5, 3 hours ago, they were down early. It looked sort of like the repeat that we saw back late in the season where the Chiefs jumped out to that early lead, and they just put the car in neutral and sat there as they were trying to go up the hill, ended up going backwards and ended up in the creek. And you guys talked about it. I don't know what's going on with Patrick Mahomes. He did not play well the final 30 minutes, and that was clear to anyone who was even half paying attention. I think it started on that drive just before halftime where Andy Reid was frustrated that Patrick Mahomes didn't throw that last pass out of the end zone to allow them to kick a field goal. Instead, he threw it to Tyreek Hill on that sort of quick screen there, and he was tackled, and they got 0 points out of it, and that bled into halftime, into the third quarter. And the Bengals were like, all right, if that's how we're going to do it, we've done this before. We have no issue coming back. And Joe Burrow methodically did just that. And Evan McPherson, who everyone laughed at as a 5th-round pick last year, made it happen.
Get to like, subscribe, and share all of our channels. Check us out. Hey, tell us what you think about it. Are we hitting it on nail on the head or are we not? Please leave a comment. Let us know. Tell us how the flow is. But don't forget, this is your boy MC D Rex, and I'm out. Peace.